Welcome to the Accessible Hunter podcast. I'm Greg Trainer along with my co-host Mike Hudson. And today we're joined by Mike Burnside. And it's going to be a really good episode. We're here to talk a little bit about Mike's daughter, Kenzi, and some of the exciting adventures these two have been on for the last few years. Mike and I have been following along, and we're really happy to have you on the show today, Mike. How you doing?
Hi, doing good. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And enjoyed seeing you and your adventures, Greg, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Oh man, I'm so glad you could take the time to be on today. You want to kind of introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a little bit about Kenzi and kind of the things you guys have been doing?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm Mike Burnside. Kenzi will be 28 years old next month. She's got cerebral palsy, confined to a wheelchair. And she's a surviving triplet. We had triplets, and her brother Thor, he's not affected, nothing wrong. You know, nobody would know they were twins because he's as big and huskier than I am, and Kenzi's just shorter and smaller in stature and everything, but she's probably stronger in spirit. But yeah, she loves life, and I'll be the first one to say, I don't know where she got that. It wasn't for me. I mean, she wants to do it all, see it all. And of course, I mean, we've helped foster that by, we've told her, whatever you want to do, as long as mom and dad can physically help you, we'll do it. And she took that to heart. And she's wore dad out more than just a few times. But we live in Northeast Oklahoma, and we live on 80 acres, and we've got great whitetail deer hunting, right here behind the house. And it's not, like most of us know, it's not, what's considered a big trophy deer. We don't have it, but any deer is a good deer, as I like to say. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Kenzi lives at home with me and mom, my wife Janet, and we're the three of us, are always involved in something. When my wife Janet, she's a flight attendant for American Airlines, and she will be gone 3 to 4 days at a time. But one of us is always here with Kenzi. We arrange our schedules to where one of us is always be able to take care of her.
Right. Man, that's what's exciting, Mike, is we've been watching you guys and her enthusiasm, not only behind the hunt. We joke around about it. It's not really a joke, but we're not indiscriminate killers. It's about time in the woods. And to see her reactions, man, that's what's always exciting to me, is seeing you guys' videos and just how jazzed up she gets. And, that I know from a father's standpoint, you've got to be overly excited with her joy and enthusiasm for life. But man, it's contagious for us that are just on the other end of a screen.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, it's every hunt, of course, people talk about that mule deer hunt where she had so much excitement, call mom,
Yeah.
Everything. But every hunt is just about that exciting. It's just never captured. That was just a once in a flash moment that caught every motion there was.
Right.
But every one we go on, I mean, she has that same excitement. And, I'll be the first to say, I've been hunting all my life. I was raised in the country, hunting, fishing. But, it's like anything, you go through life and you're like, okay, you feel like you've done it all, nothing. I mean, I haven't killed the monster trophies, but, I've hunted, fished, done everything. And you're kind of like, well, is this it? Well, then you have somebody like Kenzi that comes along, and I mean, every hunt, whether it's a doe, whether it's a spike, whether it's a 1 pound bass, I mean, it's just it's the greatest thing there ever was. I mean,
right.
And that's what makes it, that's what makes it so good. She's so fresh. She's not affected by people. Oh, you should have let him wait another year, or
right.
That
it really doesn't matter, man. When you're watching that excitement, that's really what it's about. I get it 100%, I'd rather sit in the woods and watch somebody else, have an opportunity, but especially somebody that loves life as much as she does, and just seeing how much that affects her, it truly affects us. I know, me and Greg have talked about it. And that truly is encapsulating the whole gist of why we get outdoors. Get out of your head and home, and see the excitement about being outdoors. It's contagious.
And that's like you said, filming. I always try. It's a point. I've got to set up that camera, just let it run, because her reaction and expressions make the hunt. They were just when you look back on after the hunt, it's like, wow. She just, just her enthusiasm, fun. And I've said, I think the biggest thing with her, she's never physically able to provide for the family. But when she started going hunting and fishing, she's putting food on the table. She's providing for the family. And then when I asked her the first time, hey, we've got a bunch of extra deer. We killed a lot of whitetail this year. Do you want to go with me to the food pantry to donate? And man, she just lit up. To her, that's she's feeding the family, and she's also taking food to the food pantry, and the community's able to use it. And that gives her a feeling of self-worth that it's hard to describe. It really helps her.
I know that you guys do a lot in your community and actually around the country on a lot of different events, whether it's fishing or hunting or, just, advocating. And for her to be able to do that and give back to the community so much, we just think that's so admirable, and a sense of purpose for Kenzi and the whole family. Your whole family is involved with advocacy and setting an example for so many people to follow, Mike.
Well, thank you. And that's, how we were blended into just a great team. Myself, wife, Janet, and Kenzi, I say I'm the brawn. Janet tells me, hey, we've got to do this. I was like, okay, I'll move whatever needs to be done. I'll get us in position. And Janet's got the faith. She's been a rock. Anytime, she's always the one who had faith no matter what. And Kenzi, she's just she's the driving force. And, thankfully Janet is all in. Janet thinks it's great too, because in our situation, we have to have, two people to help Kenzi do everything. And Janet's always in, and I know there's a time, just like anything else, hey, Kenzi, do you want to go hunting or do you want to go fishing? Fishing, Janet doesn't have to be there, because there's times me and Kenzi will just go down to the pond fishing. But when we go hunting, somebody's got to help her with the vacuum tube, and somebody's got to aim it. So it takes two people. And Janet will say, yeah, let's go. Because I think she's the same way. She loves the excitement too. Kenzi just, she'll light up your world.
That's one of the things, Mike, we talk about too. Not to bogart on the whole situation, but it seems like everybody doesn't understand when you're talking to able-bodied groups and these different dynamics. It's all about respite care. It's a family dynamic. Unfortunately, a lot of times with our injuries or ailments, it's not just a one person, one trick pony. It takes, for a lack of better terminology, it takes a whole village, and whether we're setting up deer blinds or doing whatever, we can't do it solo. And so I just commend you and your wife for jumping in 110%. And man, you guys make it look great. I think me and Greg are going to have to road trip and come over there and just watch Kenzi full time.
Yeah. I've had a lot of people like, man, you've got to bring her over here just so I can see that smile, when you're hunting. And, it will change your whole mood. I can be down in the dumps, having a bad day, and it never fails. I'll come in the house, for one of the first things she'll usually say, hey, how was your day, Dad? And she's positive all the time. And, like you were talking about, most people, 99.9% of people, if you got a disability, they don't realize, hey, I want to go hunting. I'm just going to go down here, and go to the tree stand. We, in our situation, with Kenzi, with you guys, they didn't like, well, I just at 1 second, I'm going to go do it. You have to plan these things out. Hey,
Right.
can somebody help me do this and everything, and that's what a lot of people I've tried to help realize that, we take too much for granted. We don't appreciate enough what the struggles can be trying to just go do something, trying to have somebody help us.
Everything requires a very detailed and meticulous plan. And people have a hard time understanding that. Take for instance a morning hunt. Well, if you want to be in the tree stand, or ground blind at 6 a.m., well, that's getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, getting dressed.
Right.
That's with very limited travel to the ground blind.
Right.
Your assistant, your wife, your spouse is getting up an hour before you're getting up so that they can get you up. And it makes for a really long day. And if you don't have a plan, if you forget something, it can go south pretty quick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Talking a little bit about equipment and stuff, Mike, I know that you guys use some of the same adaptive equipment Mike and I use, but how did you kind of figure that out, what you needed? And was there any resources available for you, or how did you set up Kenzi's system?
The Kenzi, her first big game hunt, white-tailed deer in Illinois, went with Holy Pursuits Outfitters, Holy Pursuits Dream Foundation, which Holy Pursuits Outfitters is part of it, but went with the Dream Foundation, and I had no idea, how adaptive equipment whatsoever. I'd taken Kenzi when she was 15 years old on a turkey hunt, but she just helped me hand over hand. It was just, didn't have any equipment. Well, when we went on that hunt with Dream Foundation, they had a crossbow set up for her, and it had the vacuum air trigger, the Be Adaptive. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow. I mean, I never even thought about, like we were talking about, people don't realize, hey, just grab my gun, grab my crossbow, just go. Well, no, it isn't like that. It isn't that easy. If you got a disability, you got to come up with ways. And when I saw that, I'm like, wow, that's so neat. And Kenzi really showed a love for, going out and outdoors. And so we went ahead, okay, this next spring, we went ahead and bought one. And so we could have it. And it's kind of like, you guys know, I mean, you evolve in how you do it, what you do. And we use the Tacticam because Kenzi's she's in her chair, either a track chair or her portable wheelchair. And she's typically sitting towards the back of the blind, in a ground blind. And, the idea of the Tacticam came up. And, Rudy Nunez with Tacticam, he's the one who spoke about it. He said, hey, have you thought about this? And I was like, no, we're not really interested in, I didn't really film the hunt. I wasn't interested in filming the shot. Let me put it that way. He goes, no, this is a wireless router. You can stream it. And I mean, all of a sudden the light went on. I was like, oh man, so we set up the tablet in front of her, wherever the animal's at, it's 100 yards to the left of the blind where she can't turn her head. We can't move her to see it. She's watching all the action right there.
Right.
And that was the next big thing that went off. It's like, wow, that was just that's so great, because now, like I said, she's at the back of the blind. Before, she's sitting there in her own world. She's not able to see all the activity out in the woods. Well, now there's a family of raccoons, out there 100 yards walking through the woods. I can put the scope on it and let her see those raccoons.
Right.
I mean, that opened up all these animals that she wasn't able to see before. And I mean, you could just tell the excitement in her, being able to see that.
Technology's come a long way, man. And, it's the equal opportunity incentivizer, if you will, because I know you said it, Greg said it, Be Adaptive has put out some great equipment. Rudy and those guys are doing a phenomenal job with Tacticam. And it's not all about, like you said, filming the shot. It's about opening up nature and opening up our insight and just, man, allowing us to get back out and give it 110%. Each thing is going to be customized for the end user. But that's what this podcast is about. raising awareness for folks like yourself, the equipment that's out there, and then we have to customize it for our own personal use. But man, I'm gonna tell you, technology just in the last few years has really brought things to fruition.
Oh yeah, yeah. I had a friend. It's been a year and a half now, and I still haven't made that jump to incorporate it. But he's like, "Hey, have you thought about using a VR headset? Virtual
Right.
reality goggles instead of her tablet?" I was like, "Why hadn't I thought of that?" I mean, I was like that way she's not glued to that tablet right in front of her. Wherever she's looking, she's in the action.
Right.
And I was like, man, so I've got it. I just haven't made that jump into incorporating it.
Right.
So yeah, that's the next thing, that just somebody making that common, said something about it. You don't, a lot of times if you're in the circle, you don't think about these things. Somebody else on the outside looking in says, "Hey, what about this?"
A little
And
too
it's,
close to the project
Yeah.
sometimes. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's adding one piece at a time. You started off with the sip and puff trigger, then you go to the Tacticam, then you get a track chair, then you go to the VR headset. All of this stuff is pricey, and you have to make sure that it's going to work for you. And you
Right.
add it one piece at a time. It gets better and better every year.
Yeah.
And talking about better and better, I'm making a smooth transition here, guys, to the gator hunt you guys recently went on down in it was Louisiana, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Down Louisiana.
Man, I've never been on a gator hunt. Mike, tell me all about how she got on the boat and the action, how you guys did it.
A guy had followed us on Instagram for a few years, and he had commented on one of Kenzi's deer hunting video from last fall. He said, "Man, if she wants to come on a gator hunt, you bring her down to Louisiana. I'll take her." And I messaged him back, in the spring. I said, "Man, are you serious?" He goes, "Oh yeah, you bring her down here." Of course, now I'll be the first one to say I can't talk like he did. Man, he's got a great Cajun accent.
There you go. There you go.
And so we set up the date and everything. And last week, he messaged me and we were going to go where the idea was we'd set lines on Saturday and we'd hunt on Sunday. Well, he messaged me middle of the week. He goes, "Man, I'll do whatever you all want to, but he said, I will say, he said, we got this cold front coming in. And he said, alligators don't like cold fronts. They're a cold-blooded creature. And when that starts, first little cool blast, they may not even bite." And I was like, I hadn't even thought about that. But I was like, just like that affects regular animals, I could see it affecting alligators in a bad way.
Yeah.
So I said, let's move it up one day. I said, that's fine with us. Well, so we got there Friday early afternoon. We met him and his girlfriend for dinner that night. Well, it's funny, that afternoon in the hotel, and he messaged me. He said, "Hey, he said, man, I just saw a 10-foot gator." And he said, "I set a line right where that gator's at." Said, I don't know what's going to happen, but he said, I was like, wow, it's just like anything. Hey, so, somebody tells you, I saw a 10-point buck. All of a sudden, the excitement level goes up a little bit.
Yeah.
And so the next morning, and we have that portable track chair. It's we bought off Amazon, 2.5 years ago, because she's got a regular power chair, and like y'all know, man, it's who knows how many hundreds of pounds it weighs. And so when we travel, we take this one, it'll fold up. It's probably around 70 pounds. I can fold it up, I can lift it, put it in the back of the truck, and we'll go in a truck rather than the van. Because she travels so good in the truck, because I've on my back seat, it will move forward and recline. And so she really travels good now. So thankfully we had, because he'd asked me all those questions too. We have her stationary shower chair. I said, we'll bring the stationary shower chair. We'll bring her that folding wheelchair. One of those will work good on the boat, because he's, oh yeah, we can make that work. And so we got there. I put her in that, basically when we got to the boat, I put her in a chair right by the boat. Janet held her there. So we just lifted the chair into the boat. I picked up Kenzi, carried her over there, and set her in that. And it was a bow, basically a bow fishing boat. It's pretty much all flat bottom.
Right.
All padded. floor surface and everything. So it was really good for that. And so we set her in there, took off, and probably, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes from we started, they had their the first lines. We came upon the first lines, and if you're familiar with like bank lining, where you set a pole for catfish, yeah,
Right.
it's kind of the same concept. They would have these almost like cane poles, and they would have a clothespin typically, where they would have a line tied off to something solid on the shore, but they could adjust the height of that the line with the bait coming off the water with that clothespin. They could clip it where they want, and they would use a half chicken. They would stick a hook in a half chicken, leave it right above the water. We're going along, and man, all these lines we're seeing, the chickens just sitting above the water. Nothing had touched them, and just set after set. And I was thinking, oh, this isn't good. If they're, because I had been following them, they were catching gators every day. They'd catch gators all summer long. And I was like, yeah, this probably, the gators aren't moving. And they told me later, said, yeah, we could see some lines that you all could see. We were looking different places, and they hadn't been touched. So we didn't have a good feeling about this either. And so we went on through the morning, and we got to where he had set that line on that 10-foot gator, and the line was off in the water. And that's when we eased up there, and of course he said,
game on.
Oh, that's yeah. He had told me before. He goes, usually there's a gator. Sometimes something will knock it off, this or that. But your hopes go up. And like you saw in that video, he started pulling that out, and now that gator came out from underneath that low brush. And I mean, that makes your heart rate go up real high, real fast.
Oh shit!
And he was he's a 10-foot gator. And he came out real easy. Then it all just broke loose. I mean, he was mad. And after they fought him for a little bit, they said, "Hey, you want to see what he pulls like?" So I got on. I haven't shown that video. I mean, it's just same thing where I've got him. But they did say, and one of the things you don't think about, they're like, "Hey, don't wrap that line around your hands or around your fingers."
Right.
And I was like, "Okay, glad you said that, because that's one of the first things I would have done, to wrap it around my hand." And because he had control in that water.
Oh yeah.
But the biggest thing was then they're like, okay, we got some time. He's hooked. Let's hook up your air trigger to the rifle, and Kenzi can shoot him. Well, the biggest problem was Kenzi had too long to think about everything. I mean, she was a nervous wreck. I mean,
sure.
Because she's got the gators in the water. Of course, she was nervous before we even saw a gator. Well, then we got a gator. Then she's going to shoot it. On that big, I mean, her anxiety level just goes sky high, and it's every hunt. Any hunter is, but this one especially. It's because you're talking a 10-foot alligator, and we had to convince her the alligator's going to be dead before we bring him in a boat. I mean, it's one of those things that what if this gator is still alive and you bring him in the boat?
Right.
And we talked her through, and they were real good about, hey, Kenzi, it's going to be okay. Because she was shaking so hard. Her muscles were so tense. I mean, her arms were just shaking. And so when they talked her through that, he said, okay, let's just do it. And, then you saw when we said good, and she was, she shot. As soon as that, I mean, everything's good. I mean, it's all, alligator gumbo. She was just, she's had alligator gumbo before, and she's so excited about alligator gumbo.
Man, that had to be so exciting for you and Kenzi both, and to be able to share that with the guide. It takes a lot to plan all that. They were out setting a lot of lines for you guys, and you only needed one gator, and it turned out to be a giant,
Exactly. That's what, I was like, and I told them, I see, just like anybody, they're worried, man, we want her to get a good gator. We want her to get something big. And I was like, man, if she gets a 6-foot gator, it's a monster. She won't.
Right.
Just like I said, as a spike. I mean, it's just, she's done something that she never would envision. And
right.
Hey, it's just icing on the cake. And then, 10-foot gator, of course, Dad's like, wow, a 10-foot gator. That's pretty awesome.
That's the kicker, man, is just, if we can get back out there, that's a win in my book. And like you said, people do not understand the sheer power that these alligators have. I mean, they are dominant in their world. I've been blessed enough. We do a little hands-on gator. We can't call it gator hunting because it's a catch and release, but we do the treble hooks and throw them over their back. And man, let me tell you, when you hook one of those guys, you don't know which one's hooked and which one's not, because I felt like I was the one on the hook. He was going to do what he was going to do, and I was just at his whim. But man, that's exciting. I know that was jazzy for you, but man, I guarantee you guys were beyond a blessing for the guides.
Oh, one thing I always see on, I've had, I don't know how many guys have told us on hunts, that they came to, maybe this is their first time. They came to help volunteer, help some guys do it and everything. And they always say, man, I came into this thinking, man, look what I'm doing for this girl, this young lady. And said, and I've had guys just teary eyed, and said, you don't know how much she did for me. I mean, and that's like a lot of it. I mean, like I said, we get to that point where, I'm not as excited about it as I used to be. And then you get somebody so fresh and just appreciative of the fact, hey, you're helping me get out here.
Right.
And people realize that, man, that's a tremendous thing, that you don't volunteered your time, your effort to help me get out here. And, those people realize what they've done helping the individual, and it helps their soul far more than they thought they were helping somebody else.
It's funny how that works. Hunters in general are huge conservationists, and it's always about giving more than you take. And, you hit the nail on the head, man, when we're talking about stuff like that. It's a win-win situation when we get to go back out. The person with the disability gets to do something they never thought was going to be able to accomplish. And then you got other people that see it, that are inspired. And, man, you can't get any better than that.
Yeah.
Mike, one of the things that you've said online, and I've written this down because I want to get it right. I think it's just so poignant that we talk about it now, is you say for people with disabilities, the trophy is in the opportunity. And I really felt that whenever I read it. It's not about how big the gator was. It's not about how big the buck is. It's about being out there with you, her father, going down there with her mother. But can you expand a little bit on your thoughts on what made you say that, what made you write that?
I was trying to think how I came up, thinking that, I'd seen so many, and I've been a part of so many events, not just hunting, fishing, Kenzi goes in the runs, marathon, stuff like that. And, that's probably where it hit me the hardest at first, that, you got somebody who absolutely, I mean, they're beyond, can't walk, can't do anything in their arms. They've got cerebral palsy to very severe, where maybe all they can do is maybe smile, maybe a glint in their eye.
Right.
But in that situation, they're being pushed in marathons or 5Ks, 10Ks by volunteer runners who just volunteered the time to do that. And like most of, Kenzi would be the same way. I mean, the first time they're able to feel the wind in their face, they've never been able to move fast. And they feel, they're rushing along, feeling that adrenaline. Man, for them, just the opportunity to be there. And, that's like hunting, like we talked about. People are like, hey, I want you to get the biggest, I have the biggest buck there is, biggest elk there is, biggest deer. And I had a guy one time said, man, I want Kenzi to come hunting. I want her to get a 200-inch deer. I was like, be honest, man, that's awesome. Kenzi could care less. 200 inches 200-inch deer means nothing to her, because she loves for the food. Her biggest thing is providing for the family. Yeah. And a lot of people don't appreciate it, even if they don't go out. You got guys I've known, have disabilities. They've gone on these hunts. They haven't killed anything. They haven't killed anything for a long, long time. They've been out multiple times. But to them, it's like, man, I'm out there doing something other than I'm back in my house. I don't have somebody to help me, but I'm out here. I'm actually able to enjoy the woods, waking up. I'm
Yep.
out here seeing God's creation. And so that's a powerful thing. That's what made me think, man, the trophy is the opportunity just to be out there.
Yeah.
That's
Is
what
that rediscovering, man, that rediscovering that vigor for life.
Yeah.
Something you thought was gone with your accident or ailment, and just getting back out and being in camp, being an active producing member of that society. Man, that's what it's about. Kenzi's giving back. She feels it, she knows it, and man, she's expressing it.
Yeah.
That's some powerful emotions on these hunts. Guys are all heart whenever they're going out there, sitting in the cold temperatures. We don't get to regulate our body temperature or the heat or what have you. They're out there loving nature. It's not about what you get, what you put your tag on, but the opportunity, the experience, everything that goes along with it.
And that's like you're talking about. You can't regulate your heat. You're out there, in Kenzi's situation, just like anybody else. She can't wiggle her toes. She can't move around to get warm.
Right.
And she'll finally get to the point, hey, I'm cold. But she'll suffer through it. She'll be there and do it. People don't appreciate, just like we talked about. Yeah, man, I'm just going to stomp my feet. I'm going to do this. Like, if you got a disability, there's a lot of times you cannot do that. You're out there for the love of being out there. And,
That's right.
You got to be dedicated, man. If we're going to do it, we're going to own it. Let's get after it.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when we were talking about the cold and the heat, Mike, I can't let you off of here without talking about a little bit of your success this summer. You tagged an Oklahoma antelope, and from reading your post, it seemed like it was a little bit warm on that hunt.
Oh man, it was. I will say from a temperature standpoint, it was miserable. I'm out there 100 degrees, and I've hunted when it's warm before. I will say I've never hunted when it's 100 degrees, but and it was. It was great. Like it was a great hunt. Anytime you get an animal, it just becomes a greater hunt. But I put in for that tag. Took 28 years to get drawn for it because we just have them in the last two counties in the panhandle of Oklahoma. Those are the only places they have antelope hunts. And so they've got limited numbers. I think in the county I got drawn at, only half the county. You can only hunt in half the county. And so I think for my county, half the county, I want to say there's only 25 hunters, wow. So, it was just like it's like winning the lottery that I got drawn.
Yes, sir, it is.
And, you have to get your own landowner access. I'm in an area, 7 hours from my house. I'm in an area, I don't know anybody. I go out there. I did make a trip out there about a month and a half before, after phone calls, emails, trying to line up people, and met some more landowners. I had some access before I got there, but I got some lined up. And, the problem is, especially with antelope, whitetail deer, okay, I've got 80 acres. Okay, man, I can hunt. I can make that work. Well, antelope, he's on this 80 acres today. Well, he's on another 80 acres 4 miles away tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so, it's kind of like everywhere else. They've got it, you got a full section that's 640 acres, square mile. Well, I might have 80 acres here. I might go over a mile and I've got 160 acres. I might go up 2 miles. I got 328. I had lots of land to hunt, but it was over probably a 23 mile by 17 mile area.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, I would be hunting an antelope. There'd be an antelope on this, 160 acres. Well, he's not going to be there very long because he's just moving just as they do.
Right.
And so, it just so happened that I had hunted that day. I was already getting discouraged, because from the heat and that fact for, that I did, if I would have had, okay, I've got a 2 mile by 2 mile area. Okay, I can go hunt all in here. Well, that's not the case. And it just so happened that first evening, I was driving around trying to find place, trying to spot antelope because I'd seen some the day before. Like anything, you have them all lined out. It all changed the first day. Well, I drove this one area, is my furthest one away. I thought I'm gonna drive here. I was already going into it not having any thinking I was going to be able to see anything there. Well, I come down the county road, driving down the county road, and I see this buck laying out there in a hay pasture. And I was like, and he's just laying there watching me drive down the road, and he doesn't have a care in the world. And so I drove on past him. That's one thing, you learn with antelope, especially. You don't slow down and look at them because, I'd seen some antelope that first day when I was driving down the road. Some would stop, and wait till they'd wait a little while, but then they'd leave. Man, I had one buck. He saw me from a half mile away. He didn't even wait. I mean, he was gone. He didn't even wait for me to slow down. So, but I turned the corner, went down there, parked, and that's when I started sneaking. I crawled. Once I got over in the grass, I crawled for 175 yards through the grass tall grass to come to the edge of that hayfield. And right when I got there, he stood up, and he wasn't nervous. I mean, he didn't even know I was there. And I mean, the timing all just worked out right. He stood up. I was laid down. I already had my bipod all figured out, and shot from the tall grass into that little hay pasture. He didn't walk 10 feet.
But that's the accumulation of 28 years of a stock, and you just crawled the last 175 yards to finish it up, buddy.
Oh yeah, stickers, cactus, goat heads. Do y'all know what goat heads are?
No.
They're a little ball, maybe not even the size of your pinky, the end of your pinky, but it's got nothing but stickers coming out all around it, and they grow on just goat head weed. We don't have them around here, thank the Lord. They had them out there where it's drier, but that first morning, I had done a stalk on antelope, didn't I have an opportunity or anything, but I kneeled down. Well, when I stood up from my knees to my shoelaces, I had those stuck in me all the way, and you're trying to brush those out and get them off of you. I mean, they are horrible. I mean, they're like a little ball with cactus pricks all the way around them.
Sort of like a sweet gum drop. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they've got cactus, everything else. It's a drier, more arid sort of country.
Well, that had to be an exciting finish for you. And you were by yourself during all that, right? You went unguided and just on your own.
Yeah, just on my own. I was worried about finding landowners, but I will say they hate antelope, because these farmers, they're farming for a living, and antelope, whereas, we got a group of, 2 to 5 deer that will come in, here or there. Well, antelope, especially during the winter months, they herd up, and the one lady said, oh yeah, I'll see 70, 75 down there together in the field. Well, you got that on a wheat field, on an alfalfa field, that many animals, they will just stay there, and they eat all that hay, all that farmer's production.
Sure.
Right.
And so they were excited for me to, and of course the standard answer was, yeah, kill yours and kill about 5 or 10 more. I was like, well, I can only kill one.
Right.
I'm sure happy for you.
Oh, thanks. It worked out great. I mean, and I couldn't ask for a better buck. I mean, it was just, it all worked out just the way I'd hope it would.
And it was only a 4-day season, and you got it on the first day.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of work, don't get me wrong, but it could go south very quick. That the days go by quickly on a hunt.
Oh yeah, and it all happens real fast. And the forecast that was on a Thursday, and Friday and Saturday is forecast to be 102 degrees. And I was like, oh, this is just going to get more miserable.
Wow.
Yeah. Hey man, but the dedication paid off. 28 years and shrekking through the heat, man. You did it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. It's one of those things. I can say, I finally got to hunt that antelope, and I've been putting in for elk in Oklahoma for, I think, 32 years. So as soon as I got that tag drawn, I was like, well, there's actually a chance that I could get drawn for elk, because you get to the point, well, I'm just putting in. And when I got that email, I'd been chosen, and Janet was going on a trip, and I told her, I said, I will tell you that I blew that whole day. When I got drawn, I said I was making phone calls, I was emailing anybody I could think of to try to find out where do I start finding access.
Sure, yeah, you got to start the plan.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, we sure appreciate you coming on. Do you guys have anything else that you'd like to talk about, or anything at all?
You know, Kenzie, probably we don't have any more. We don't have any more adventures planned this fall, but I've said that before, and things change real fast. But we are going to we're going to crossbow hunt this year. I Killer Instincts. I'll do a big plug for them. I went to our local bow shop, which local is about 35 miles away. And I said, hey, I'd like to get a bow, a crossbow that Kenzie could shoot this year. Well, like you guys probably know, I hadn't crossbow hunted. That what I found out is the be adaptive, the plates are solid on both sides and everything. Well, man, all of these crossbows had the trigger guards were so different. They all got their own little signature thing they want to do on their crossbow. Well, and I was like, and I'd already talked to Be Adaptive. Yeah, they can make the special plates, this and that, but then you're locked into, well, what if I do a different crossbow, this or that?
Right.
Well, I was talking to our crossbow shop, and they're like, hey, let me talk to my reps. And I know that crossbow shop really good. And let me talk to my reps. Let me see what we can do. And she came back. She called me probably a week later, and she said, hey, Killer Instincts, they said they will take the trigger guard and just make one special for mounting up with the Be Adaptive. They'll make it a regular rifle style trigger, and so of course for them it's a selling point because hey, they can market it now for hey, if you have a disability, you use a Be Adaptive system. This mounts.
There you go.
But we started. I actually thought I would get it done for last fall, but realistically, you go through all the design, this and that. I don't know how many boxes he showed me at one time. How many boxes Killer Instincts would 3D print a trigger, a pistol grip with the trigger in it. Sent it to him. Nope, that won't work. Because I brought in the system, showed him how it all operated, the whole works, and he'd taken dimensions. So, he was great. The guy with the bow shop going back and forth. So finally got it back here this summer. So I'm hoping we're gonna get Kenzi out this weekend and set up the ground blind, see if we can start having success. We're still, I don't get too excited myself about bow hunting yet because we're still a little warm, it's not deer aren't moving yet.
One of the things about Killer Instinct crossbows, I believe they partnered up, and I could be wrong, but I believe they partnered up with the Omega scope, the Omega 3, and it's actually a rangefinder and a camera all in one. And I believe that Killer Instinct sells a package like that, and it's really good for people with disabilities because you can see exactly what you're shooting. You don't have any eye relief issues. If you have a visual impairment, the person behind you can look and see, what you're on, and they can kind of guide you in by touching your shoulder, up, down, left, right, that kind of thing. So they're doing some really amazing stuff.
Oh yeah, like we talked about technology on that on equipment, and you talk about technology on crossbows and stuff like that. I was like, wow, this isn't your dad's crossbow. I mean, these are
exactly.
It's amazing.
I would rather crossbow hunt than do anything probably in this world. That's one of the things that I enjoy the most is sitting in my ground blind with my crossbow and waiting on a deer or a turkey to get 20 yards or 30 yards away,
Oh yeah. I had, when you're in, like, man, when you're rifle shotgun, when you can be out there, they can be out there 100 yards, 150 yards. Well, they got to be in there close. When you're crossbow hunting, you got to be, when you're looking at 40 yards, my maximum shot, now that changes everything.
Oh yeah.
It gets my heart rate going. It really does.
Oh yeah.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on. And one day we'll have you and Kenzi on together, just so we can say hello to her and thank her for everything that she's doing. I really hope you tell her that, we're following and we love what she's doing. She puts a smile on my face every time I see her on Facebook.
I will. That's one of the things that as an individual, we don't realize, or we don't want to accept the fact that we're inspiring somebody else. I've told Kenzi for years, I was like, man, Kenzi, you're an inspiration. Not just to me, but other people who see, that you're not letting this stop you from doing stuff. You're adapting, you're making it work. And I see people see that, whether it's with disabilities, whether it's not, and I've had people friend me, message me from all over the world that they're like, I didn't even know this was possible. That they were just like, they were where I was at before I started this.
Yep.
And I said, well, no. I see, they'd ask about the equipment. I'd give them okay, this is the model. I'd give them the link directly to Be Adaptive's website, or here's foundations you can talk to. Here's how I did this, do that. And so, I've told Kenzi, I said, you just don't realize the inspiration you're providing for people. And it's just like anything. She's not stepping outside looking in. She didn't realize the impact she has.